Ingram Smith, Bud Elliott back again for another episode of the Nolecast, our final preview episode. And it is the win projection slash season preview. So thank you to all of our sponsors who have made this series possible. Charlie Park, Congruity, the legendary team of Chad and Shannon, Louisiana Hot Sauce, and as always, the great people at Tarpon Cellars. So, Bud, landed in Atlanta, coming back from podcast moving at 2 a.m., recording at 7. Let's get it.
Look at that, man. Professional podcasters. All right. I think the way we do this is let's go just game by game. We can stop at any point if we want to discuss something. Back and forth, and we'll figure out what our win totals are. And then we'll sort of ask each other some questions about what this actually means if this plays out like we think it'll play out.
All right, man. As we have said, we won't trouble our listeners with a full-blown Duquesne episode, and for that reason, I think we'll be pretty quick in diagnosing here. I have a 99% win projection for the season opener.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Same here. Next game, LSU. I actually do give LSU an additional point of home field advantage for this. It is a neutral site for both, but FSU has to travel further. It's also almost certainly going to be a more partial LSU crowd. LSU also historically plays extremely well in the Dome, with one exception being the game against Alabama when they didn't cross the 50-yard line, which is not totally relevant to now because that's 11 years ago. It was 2011, the Oklahoma State year. But typically, LSU in the Dome plays very well. I have these teams power rated pretty similarly, actually. I think LSU is a more talented team, but FSU has more returning experience that has actually played together. So I make this 42% chance of winning.
Yeah, I have it at 49%. And after watching some clips of some LSU linemen yesterday, I probably would have downgraded it some. Had
defensive lineman or offensive lineman?
Defensive lineman.
Okay.
I just don't know that we have the people to block some of what they have up front, but I think Florida State will be well prepared. I think they benefit from the week 0 game. I think they benefit from this being Brian Kelly's first game with a new team, and perhaps I'm being slightly homerish to have it at 49%, but that's where we are for the sake of today's conversation.
I don't think you're being homerish at all, man. So I wanted to share something with the audience here. Last year in week 0 and week 1, Vegas spreads averaged being 12 points off the spread. We don't know a damn thing about these teams, even the ones we cover. We really we think we do, and we know more than the average Joe Public fan, certainly. But this is not an exact science. There's some art to it, and there's a lot of unknowns, and you don't know how LSU is going to mesh. They might have all kinds of problems. They might be starting Jaden Daniels because their offensive line is bad. My projection has Maurice Smith missing this game. If he plays, I think I'm probably a percentage point or 2 higher, because you have to account for the idea that we could have a bad snap in the game, or just an inability to function without our top 2 centers. Those are things that concern me. But it's an extremely high variance game. It wouldn't surprise me if FSU won this thing by 10.
Yeah. As you said yesterday on Cover 3, I believe, we don't know nearly as much about these teams as we think we do right now. And that will certainly play itself out. And if we don't know a whole lot now, I certainly think we'll have a good idea after the third game. 13 days after LSU, you travel to Louisville. Bud, where are you on this one?
Yeah, so I am at 43% here.
Okay.
I make this slightly more likely to win than LSU. Where are you at?
This may be our biggest delta, and this may be me wanting something that I'm not sure, but I've got it at 56% for Florida State's favor here.
Interesting. So I have a hard time shaking the fact that Satterfield has just absolutely pantsed Adam Fuller every time they've played so far. Now, granted, it's only 2 games, but it's been pretty they have reached garbage time almost immediately both times they've played. These games have not been competitive. I think Louisville's defense is the most improved unit out of all 4 units that'll be on the field. Louisville O, Louisville D, that type of thing. Apparently Brownlee has his head on straight and is going to start for them, by the way. So that's if he's right, he's a solid player. They picked up a nice transfer from Arizona State to play nose, which has been a position they've needed quite a bit in some of their losses. I think that's an elite offense you're facing and one of the best offensive lines you're going to face. And I think they can block FSU. But if FSU's D line steps up, then this is a whole new ballgame. Because I'm not really convinced that their passing game is all that great if they're not able to use some of that run action.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you about. What you thought of their receivers and running back units, but we
I
were
think
there.
the backs they're pretty happy with the backs. Like the receiver stuff, I don't know, man. I don't think they're like great shakes, but they create a lot of one-on-ones with these long over concepts that they're running off play action. They don't do a whole lot of drop back stuff. It's sort of similar to what FSU does in terms of not what they run, but how they run it. It's a lot of play action. It's a lot of half roll stuff.
Bud and I sat in some wonderful, what I label almost novelty seats last year for the Louisville game. It's 3 seats, 3 rows off of the 50-yard line, and it sounds like a great seat. In many ways, it is, but you don't see a whole lot as to what's going on other than that is immediately in front of you. And I believe the score was 31-3 or something like that at halftime when we went to go get a little bit better advantageous position as to watch the game. And I think it was at that point when Bud and I briefly started talking about maybe doing a barbecue podcast. So I think we're going to be a better place after this year's Louisville game. And also, like I said, I think this may be the biggest delta that we have as far as win projection between the two. So moving to game 4, Boston College. I'll go out here first. I've got this at 74%, Bud.
Okay, 74. So this might be our smallest delta. I have this at 75.
Okay.
Briefly on Boston College, Jeff Hafley told me at media day, this is on the record, so not private stuff, that this should be the best defense they've had at Boston College in a while. However, they did lose 4 offensive linemen, 2 to the draft, and the remaining big-time O-line draft prospect, Christian Mahogany, I think he blew a knee playing pickup basketball in the offseason, so he is out, which means Boston College has to break in 5 new offensive linemen. They do get Zay Flowers back at receiver, despite some team, I don't know, maybe a couple thousand miles south trying to get him to transfer for an NIL thing. I think BC matched. But ultimately, your defensive line here, I think, is the difference. If FSU is healthy, I think they should be able to give Boston College's offense real problems. This might be a defensive battle, but in Doak, I do like this. You also get the extra day of rest coming off the trip to Louisville, so it's not the typical, shorter post-road turnaround. Here's one that will probably make or break the season, by the way. Or do you have more Boston College stuff?
No, I mean, you said it there, and we're more or less in lines based off our percentages on that game. Make or break the season, and also a game that I really struggle with as to whether or not their quarterback's going to be back when I put this number on the sheet. So let's move our attention to said quarterback and Wake Forest.
Yeah, and I think a guy like Sam Hartman is probably worth 4, maybe 5 points on the spread, and that's a fairly big deal. I went with 75. I don't think that this team is going to be with Sam Hartman when they play FSU. If they did, I'd probably knock this down to 70 or 68 or what have you. Here's the thing. I think Wake Forest with Hartman could be a better football team than they were last year in terms of actual quality of play. But they were also really fortunate last year in some games. I think their win total that they ended up with was higher than the quality of play on the field actually deserved in terms of some of the breaks they got, some of the turnovers they got, which again, if you guys are new to the show, there is some skill in turnovers. There's a lot of luck in turnovers. That's why it's not super consistent year to year. I also think if you go back and look at that FSU game, Wake got a ton of just, I'm not going to say just dumb luck, but just really fortunate stuff. The nonsense penalty call for the late hit to extend that one Wake touchdown drive, which was in bounds. Like he pretty clearly did not step out of bounds before he was hit. You also had like the tip ball touchdown. There's a lot of stuff that even if it was good skill, it was like, yeah, that's a nice shot. Can you hit that again? Type stuff. And I'm a little skeptical that they can. I think FSU is better equipped to defend them this year, especially with the safety combo that the Noles have in Jamie Robinson and Dent there. So I'm a little bullish on this game for FSU, but this is projection. Full disclosure is without Hartman.
Yeah.
The most likely time for Hartman to come back is probably post bye week, which is a week after FSU. So, but if he gets better earlier, then you have to drop this down some.
Yeah, I have this priced as him coming back. I
Okay.
have talked to some people at Wake, and maybe they're just wildly optimistic. They think they're going to have him back. Now, you hear very different stories on Hartman depending on who you talk to as to, yeah, maybe he's just missing a couple weeks, or dude's not going to play again. So there's a whole lot of variance as to what
Clausen
this kid's
this week
timeline
did
is.
say, like their head coach did say this week, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, that they're going to get him back.
Okay.
So it's more of a question of a win, not if at this point, I think.
I have him back for this game in my numbers, and I have Wake at 61%.
Well, you have Wake winning 61%?
No, I have
FSU
Florida
winning?
State's win projection or win possibility at 61%. Yeah.
I'm also curious, like, if their defense is actually going to be better. They think it'll be better, but I don't know, man. That's it has not been a great defense in recent years. Okay, at NC State, this is my lowest game on the schedule.
This and Miami are my two lowest games as far as what Florida State's win percentage is. 31%. I'll lead off. I don't like the matchup. I don't like the emergence of some of the pieces that people in Raleigh will tell you to come on. I just look, this isn't a video game that you can just sim and rest everybody up. But I don't think Florida State is well served here on this weekend. I've got a 31%. There's another road game here that I have slightly less likely for Florida State to win that we'll get to in a couple games. But I don't like the matchup. I don't like who they're having to play against quarterback. And, Florida State traveling to Raleigh is a tough ask regardless.
It definitely is. I actually have this at 25%, so I'm even lower than you. I don't give them I'm not going to say I give them no shot, but I don't give them a great shot to win this game. I think NC State has an advantage on both lines of scrimmage. I think they have really good linebackers. They feel better about their secondary than they have in a while. I think Devin Leary is arguably the best quarterback in the ACC. The guy just doesn't turn the football over. 33-5, I think it was last year. Touchdown interception ratio, big time arm. Receiver is something they feel okay about. This could be a bit of a slugfest if receiver doesn't come on for them, because I do have some confidence in FSU's ability to stop the run this year, especially given the emergence of Briggs on the outside, who I think could be a difference maker for you in somewhat of the way that like Mario Edwards Jr. was back in the day, just like setting the edge in a way that disrupts what you do offensively. And to me, there's no game on this schedule that FSU cannot win, right? But this is the least likely win for me, at least. Followed closely by the next game, though.
Okay. Interesting.
Clemson.
I really
don't
wish
think
I could.
FSU. Sorry, go ahead.
I just saying, I wish I could address my Clemson win percentage after 2 or 3 weeks. I desperately want to see what this team looks like. Incredible defense, really nice skill position. I'm still real skeptical as to what they have at quarterback. Some of the decisions that Dabo made at coordinator as far as replacing. I'm not going to tell you this is a dynasty in decline quite yet, but there certainly were some of the prereqs of that you saw last year. So I've got this game at 36% as far as the win probability. And like I said, if there was any game on the schedule that I would like a 2 or 3 week window look in to reevaluate, it would be this one. But as for now, as we sit here on the one of the final days in August at 7:30 in the morning, I've got this at 36% in Florida State's likelihood of winning.
Nice. So I'm a little more bullish on them than you are, just because of the defensive talent. I just don't think FSU can block Clemson.
Mhm.
I think I like that the floor of the offensive line has been raised. I do not think the ceiling of the offensive line has been raised very much with the talent that is brought in yet. Darius Washington, not a real offseason given that he was hurt. Caden Lyles is already down. Reese Smith is already hurt. That doesn't mean he's not going to be back for the game, but again, like, he's already hurt, and he stays hurt. Gibbons stays in the training room. Robert Scott also had an injury. So Yeah, I make this 26%. This is, to me, is it weird that Venables is clearly the better coordinator than Elliott, and yet I'm a little bit more confident on what they replaced Venables with, just based on things I had heard about West, the new DC, than I am about the replacement at OC for Streeter replacing Tony Elliott. Maybe I'm biased because of the talent on defense, though.
I was going to say it's. I don't care who you are. You give me that defensive line, you can give me whatever coordinator you want. I mean, it legitimately might be better than their 2018 defensive line. It is. Now that's probably a reach, but just to give you an idea, their defensive line is all world. And you know the coaching personnel better than I do. But I tell you what, you let me start with that front seven. I feel pretty confident about anybody that I put a coordinator at Clemson right now.
For sure. All right, Georgia Tech. This is one that I was. Look, I don't make individual game numbers. I make my power ratings, and then I run some simulations. Right. This is one I'll tell you that I was a little bit surprised at just how high I had this.
Give us your number, sir.
Yeah, I am 94% on Georgia Tech.
That is richer than even I thought you were going to say. Wow. Okay. I'm at 86%. This is I have another game at 86%, but absent the Duquesne game, this is my, most confident game that I have on the schedule for Florida State. So it's an interesting offseason. I mean, look, Georgia Tech, we've talked about it for a year now, legitimately. We were laughing how hard this schedule was going to be, I think 2 or 3 weeks into the season last year for Georgia Tech. By all accounts, Jeff Collins is a dead man walking. I have to say that was not the athletic director's actions over the last 6 months or so. They have given him some pretty good pieces when it comes to some coaching and support staff and things like that. So nonetheless, I just don't see Georgia Tech winning more than 2 or 3 games this year. And absent some crazy concentrated injuries along the line of scrimmage, I don't see Florida State being particularly being a competitive game.
Yeah, I agree with you there. So you're 86%, you said? Or 80?
Yes.
All right, 86. So my real concern with Georgia Tech is the number of guys they had transfer out who are now starting at better programs. I don't believe that Collins and company can replace that. And I think just things that I had heard in the coaching industry, they were pretty annoyed at how the transfer portal treated them. The best D lineman on Ole Miss. Probably the kid who started at Georgia Tech last year. Obviously, Jameer Gibbs.
Yeah, I was going to say you got a skill kid in Tuscaloosa potentially starting. That's not something Georgia Tech, suffers a loss of and absorbs real well. So yeah.
So I make FSU a 20-point favorite in this, which seems high. FSU's coming off a bowl, or excuse me, not a bowl game. Good God, a bowl game would be cool to come off, but they're coming off a bye week, and Georgia Tech is not. They are consecutive home games, so they'll be somewhat not well rested, but it's like you haven't had to travel for a while. Georgia Tech gets 2 extra days of rest. I think they play that Thursday game against Virginia. I don't think Georgia Tech has a whole lot of talent. I also think getting Georgia Tech in the back half of the schedule, this could, I'm not saying will, but could be a situation where they're sort of a dead man walking team, right? I also think FSU will take them seriously because there's a decent number of guys who were on that 2020 team who lost to this team for the season opener, right? It's and I don't know what Collins' buyout is. Oh, Collins' buyout's interesting. He's owed 10.6 per Pete Thamel if he's fired in early December, but 7.2 after January 1st. That's not totally relevant to this game, but this is one that I think if you're Mike Norvell, you have to get because you're in a very difficult stretch here of games in which, like, you're going to be clearly underdogs in 3 out of 4 games between NC State, Clemson, Georgia Tech, and at Miami. Maybe double digits in a couple of those.
Is it just cut and dry in this? I'm probably being oversimplistic, but if Florida State loses against Georgia Tech this year, Mike Norvell is not going to be your coach. Well, no, Mike Norvell has his own powerful buyout. I shouldn't go quite that strong with it, but look, if you lose to Georgia Tech this year, you're looking at having a 6-6 type season. Maybe perhaps likely worse than
if you lose this one, you might be going 5-7.
Yeah.
At Miami.
At Miami, for me, this is and sounds like we got a little bit of a difference here. This is for me the most pessimistic game that I have on the schedule. I don't like the pieces that Miami has been able to add in the portal. I don't think you're going to get a similar effort from Van Dyke that you did last year. You don't have a future first round pick harassing him in the entirety of the right side of the offensive line. I have this at 29%. But
Dude, that's exactly what I have it at.
okay, all right.
Wow. Okay. Um, this is one where Miami is, I think, clearly a better team than FSU is. They have done a nice job in the transfer portal. I do think Van Dyke is a good quarterback. I'm not sure I'm totally sold on him being a lock first rounder, and maybe he will be. I want to see more than a 5 or 6 game sample against FBS teams like he played last year. To me, I kind of like the matchup a little bit in that I like Miami's secondary. I like Miami's running backs. I like Miami's defensive line when it comes to pass rush. But this was a really poor run stopping team last year, which is what the Noles want to do. I think FSU's secondary is good, but I would have some concerns if you're lining up like Renardo Green or true freshman AZ Thomas in front of a bunch of stud receivers. And Miami, I think, still has fairly not significant, but real questions at the pass catching positions. So does FSU, certainly. But to me, that's why I'm as high as I am on this game. Like I did adjust this a point for, and I do this each week. Like I make my numbers in the preseason. I can give you my number on every single game for every game that's going to be played in this year, not just FSU. But week to week, I do adjust it with points, right? And like this is one stylistically, I don't hate the matchup here. Talent-wise, certainly Miami is a better team than you are. Stylistically, I do give them a little bit of extra credit.
Moving into the final 3 games of the regular season, looking at a Syracuse game, I'll lead it off. I've got this at 79%, bud.
Okay. I am actually at 69% on this one. So a little bit of a difference. It's back-to-back road games. That's a long travel. At the same time, the Syracuse team certainly could quit. They've had a ton of adversity, but they usually play pretty hard for Dino. They are installing a new offense that I don't think there's any doubt that this offense will be better coordinated than it was last year. The whole Gilbert stuff, that was not a good fit. Now, do they have the personnel to run what they really want to run? I'm not sure. This is the game that I think has the biggest potential swing for me. If this all clicks, you could be a toss-up there. If it doesn't, you could be a 2-touchdown road favorite, right? Syracuse has a very thin defensive line. There's another team we're going to talk about that is very thin on the defensive line coming up, by the way, which makes projecting them throughout the whole season difficult. But you have to take this into account.
Especially this deep into the schedule. Absolutely.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like they could lose some guys there. And also the offensive line at Syracuse, they feel the starters will be the best unit they've had in about 6 or 7 years. But the backups are very problematic. They are sort of in the whole can't play range or can't block FSU's guys range. They have the really good back in Sean Tucker. Schrader is an experienced quarterback, even though throwing-wise he's not great. Receivers, I'm not really totally sold on. That's why I have FSU at almost 70% to win on the road. But good luck projecting this, man. Like they have so many questions.
All right. Interesting game here against the University of Louisiana. I have a very optimistic number on this, tied with Georgia Tech as the most optimistic looks at games throughout the year. This team lost a decent amount of talent in the transfer portal. I've got this at 86%, bud.
Interesting. Okay, so I have this at 84%. So we're very close. I think this team on a neutral field beats Georgia Tech.
Okay.
Confidently. So the fact that it's after a road trip and then sandwiched between that and your biggest rival in UF, even though it's a home game, it's a sandwich spot. This is an FSU team that cannot afford any letdowns this year. They have to just try to be up for all 12 weeks if they can. They cannot overlook anybody, but they did lose an awful lot to the transfer portal. I've talked to some guys down there. I try to find like local media guys to talk to when I'm making my preseason numbers. They feel like they've actually upgraded at the quarterback position. They will be a little more aggressive offensively, but they did lose a good bit of talent. Like if you played last year's Louisiana team, this would not be not be 84. The other thing is I still have a hard time figuring out how good this team is, man. Louisiana, because, and I mentioned this on Cover 3 and Florida fans got mad at me, and it's not a knock on Napier. It's just an admission that I don't know, because nobody in the Sun Belt West, other than this Louisiana team, has made a bowl the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
They have primarily just been feasting on teams that were bottom 30 in the country. And they beat them soundly for the most part. But there is an element of, can you get your team to play up every week? I don't know. But like Troy's going to be better this year. I think South Alabama's going to be better this year. Southern Miss should be better this year. Coastal, I have a slight downgrade. App State, kind of the same. Georgia State should be better. I think they actually dodged Marshall and App from the East and the Sun Belt. I don't have all these schedules memorized, but I remember thinking like one of my talking points on them was pretty favorable schedule yet again somehow. But this is not a team that you're going to beat by 40. Like, don't just look at Louisiana and think, okay, whatever. Like, this is, yeah.
All right. I'm gonna let you lead off with the Florida game here, bud.
All right. I have Florida rated 2 points better than FSU, and the game's in tally. So that to me means exactly a 50%. I use 2 for home field advantage, not 3. Yeah, I have this exactly 50%.
Okay. Yeah.
Where are you at?
For what it's worth, I wrote all my numbers down beforehand, so I don't want y'all to think I'm just adjusting on the fly. I've got this at 51%, so we're more or less in agreement. I have this slightly shaded to Florida State. Again, absent the Clemson game, if you give me any like week 3 look in to reevaluate these numbers, I would choose Florida here. I desperately want to get a feel for where this team is, how it responds to a year 1 coach. But as for now, I have Florida State as the slightest of favorites. And again, we're talking about games that are 12 weeks away, and it's hard to predict as any on the schedule. But that's where I am as of this morning.
I don't think there's any problem with that. And I know like their defensive line is something that you have a real concern with.
They just didn't get that marquee piece in the transfer that they wanted, or marquee pieces. I mean, this was a school that desperately needed to go out and get a difference maker in the middle, and they don't have it. And it is a strange place to see a school like that as depleted along the defensive line as they are. But that's the reality of Florida's situation as we sit here at the end of August.
I agree, man. Like I think that's really kind of you said it. It's weird because if they stay healthy, I will have them favored in Tallahassee, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But what are the odds that you stay perfectly healthy? This is why we talk about things like depth and why in our positional preview shows, we make sure to do things like talk about depth and talk about the backups, because what happens if they have to play?
Maybe this is the game that I have to buy a second Trey Benson jersey after or something. I mean, I could legitimately see Benson running for like 180 yards against Florida. You've got a chance to dominate this team on the ground if you're healthy. If you think Benson is what he is, this could be a whole hell of a lot of fun now. I don't know how many people are going to see it. This is not a win projection based conversation, but I don't think you're going to have a ton of people in the stands on a Black Friday, day after Thanksgiving, no students. I doubt this will be replicated just based off my own personal thoughts. Now, maybe Florida State's won 8 games at this point. The fan base is incredibly enthused, and this is, somewhat of a, what was it, 2010, the first chance of the Jimbo era that you really got a chance to slap Florida and you're fully excited about it. But I'm curious. I certainly don't think this is a 3-point atmosphere from a home field advantage standpoint, like you referenced there. And hey, it'll be fun to watch, fun to play out. But as of now, I have Florida State as a slight favorite.
I mean, I agree with you there. So our totals then are, I am at 7.12. And you are at 7.37 wins.
Yeah, I think I'm just under 7.4. So
Yeah. That ain't bad, man.
no, it's not bad, and it's I of course this is easy to say now. I don't think I've talked myself into any wild lies other than the Louisville game. I'm probably a little bit high on that one, but look, this is this
Per
is where
quarter
we
win
are.
different. Like that's
Yeah,
not huge, you know?
if
I mean,
things go well, I think this is, you have a chance to be an 8-win team, which is a wildly optimistic projection from where we would have been maybe 6 months ago or so. I think this team is legitimately better. I think this team, if it had some of the schedules of the past 3 years, we would legitimately be talking about a potential 9-win team here. As the schedule is this year, I'm not quite at 7.5, but I am damn near a coin flip between 7 and 8 wins if you look at these numbers and put them together. So
yeah, I think that's very fair. All right. So here's something for you. What odds would you give Florida State to win 10 or more regular season games?
Uh, somewhere between 8 and 12%, just off the top of my head.
I'm gonna turn my fan off. It's making a lot of noise. This is crazy.
So I'll be interested in Bud's number there, but yeah, I think you got about a 10% chance if you just want to round those two together of winning 10 regular season games, and yeah, that might even be. I might be closer to 8 as I run through my numbers here. But Bud, where are you on that projection or likelihood?
Yeah, so I'm at like 15%, dude.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. I misread that. On the fly. I don't have those columns up. I am at like 7.5, 8%.
Okay.
If I'm doing this right. Like here's something interesting. If you stay super healthy, there's enough coin flips on the schedule that there are not many games on this schedule in which you legitimately project to be a double-digit underdog, or especially not a 2-touchdown underdog type thing. That's a big deal. Like the teams that go and do really wild stuff typically are those teams that just don't have any games that are just absolute locks.
There's 3 games direction here in NC State, Clemson, and Miami where we're pretty definitively negative as to what your projections are, and in a significant manner. Other than that,
but none in which you're a 2-touchdown dog, though.
No,
you know what I'm
saying? Nothing that you're not going to be competitive in per se. Look, every program thinks they have a run of bad luck. I think Florida State's had a little bit of a couple rough bounces recently, whether it be injury luck or other things. You win a couple of these coin flips, and I mean, are we legitimately talking about an 8 or 9 win team? Yeah. I think it's possible. So, a testament to the job done. Certainly, you've had some misses in the talent acquisition game, but the talent on this roster has upgraded significantly, as we've talked about for a while, and as we both kind of individually remarked while doing our snap count draft. I think we had guys last year getting like 700 snaps in our projections that, if they were on the roster at this point, might be double-digit projections. I mean, it was just a better, upgraded roster across the board, and I think to a large extent our win probabilities are reflective of it.
Yeah, I have them at a, what am I at here? I mean, I have them at a 78% chance to make a bowl. That's pretty good, man.
Pretty good. And again, based off these projections, Mike Norvell's got what, a $18.8 million buyout, you said, Bud?
Correct.
What is it?
Yeah, that
Okay.
extension, according to Pete Thamel at ESPN, was real. Like, not just a hand wave. Here's a verbal extension. Like the FSU's in on Mike Norvell. They guaranteed that deal.
Yeah.
Also, my lights are apparently out now. That's great. I'm gonna burn this thing down.
First thing in the morning recording, that'll happen. So
it went out yesterday on Cover 3 too, man. I'm just like,
okay.
How hard is it to get some rope lights?
Yeah. Well,
that actually work. Stay up.
I'm familiar in that atmosphere, in that arena, and rope lights are trash. So it's not my first.
These are these strip lights that have the adhesive on the back.
Yep.
High quality. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, a couple things here for you. Number one, FanDuel has this team at 20-1 to win 10 or more regular season games. I mean, if you think like I think there's potentially some value in that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I do think Louisville is the better bet there. It was like 45-1. Now it's 30-1. But still, like, there's some teams that if you're a decent team, like if you think this team is a top 35 type team or in that range, and honestly, like, guys, there's not much difference between like the 18th team and like the 48th team nationally. People don't want to hear that. 25th is an arbitrary number, but if you do power ratings, there ain't much difference. Like, I'll take I don't want to run too long here, but I mean, just who is my all right, I'll take my team rated 18th, and I'll decrease them by a field goal. If you're just a field goal worse per game, okay, drops them to 33rd.
Instructive, huh?
BYU, by the way. There's not that much difference. If you just stay healthy and have some continuity and the coaching staff does a good job, this team could win 10 games. If you have bad bounces, this team could win 4 games. This is sort of the lesson. If you have this schedule with this many close games, it's there's nothing guaranteed. I don't have any individual record with more than a 25% likelihood.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I have double-digit likelihoods on 6, 7. I mean, dude, these are 5 actually is still a double-digit percentage chance, which people are going to hate to hear. 8, 9 is pretty close. The tail ends of this distribution are big when you play this many close games. You only have 1 lock game on the schedule, 2 if you want to count Georgia Tech. But I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. The variance is huge.
Yeah.
Will this team be ranked at any point this year?
Maybe at the end of the season. I think the likelihood that you start. Here's the other thing that I take away from these projections. And I know people don't want to hear this. The world isn't over if you start out 1 and 2. I know it's going to suck. I know people are going to hate it. I know that there's going to be some, entertaining spaces and message boards and everything else. Look, you got a decent chance of going 1 and 2 and quickly being, 3 and 3 after the. 3 and 4 after the Clemson game, and I think you got a good chance of winning 4 of your last 5 games. I think be patient with the schedule. That's what I'm saying from these win percentages. And I don't see you getting ranked only because I think you struggle a little bit out of the gate, and from a national perspective, pundits are going to be pretty reluctant to put a number next to Florida State's game. You're going to have to win 4 of your last 5 or something like that, in my opinion, for that to happen.
I think that's fair. I wonder, like, if you start 2-1 though, which I think 2-1 is the highest individual likelihood if you had to pick one, because you are coin flippy in both your difficult games. You're going to beat Duquesne.
I could see you being also receiving votes if you could start out
2-1, man. Like, you could pretty easily, if you start 2-1, the chance that you go 4-1 is pretty high.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And like 4-1,
that's true.
You've played 2 spotlight national TV games. You have the LSU game all to yourself, and you have the Louisville game all to yourself. And then you get wins against Boston College and Wake Forest. I mean, I think you're probably ranked at 4-1.
Yeah.
If
you can start 4-1, you'll probably have a number next to your name.
That's probably your only chance to be ranked, though. Because if you start 3-2 or worse, then you go NC State, Clemson, Georgia Tech, Miami.
Mm-hmm.
2 wins there would be extremely what you want. Like, if you go 2-2 in that stretch, I think you're taking that, right?
Yeah. I think you're going to exit the Miami game being 5-4, and it's how many of those final 3 games can you win as to what the ultimate outcome of this season looks like. So that's why I say be patient with this. Ultimately, I think there's a ton of improvement here, and ultimately, I think it's going to be reflected in your final win loss number. But this has been fun. This is always a good kind of draw the emotion out of it experience, and we certainly try to do that to the best of our ability.
We got time for like 2 more questions, or you got to bounce?
100%. No, let's do it.
All right. I think we've done in the season previews, you guys can kind of tell what would need to happen for you to overachieve or underachieve. There's also things outside your control, like injury bug for other teams that might matter, or other teams that might not matter. What is this record if they go 7-5? What does that mean for recruiting?
So I said this a couple months ago when everybody started kind of shift their focus to this. I don't think you're as dead in the water at 7-5 as some people may think you are in recruiting. I think that you'll be able to sell to an extent 3-5-7. I don't think you're going to trust me. I don't think you're going to start grabbing top 150 kids or something like that if you go 7-5. But I do think that there's a little bit of progress there. We've talked at length for the past couple months that institutionally, Florida State's in a much better place to look at recruiting and evaluate the landscape. Are you going to close with a flourish? No. Is the class going to suffer massive defection? No, I don't think so. I think I think a 7-5 record would let you keep most of the pieces that you have, particularly along the offensive line. Are you going to grab a Hakeem Williams at 7-5? Yeah, probably not.
I think that's fair. It's also going to depend on how it looks, who they are, and what order they come in. I think you'd rather start hot and have your 5. Like if you are 4-1 to start the year and you finish 7-5, people aren't going to like that because that means you finished 3-4. Mm-hmm. That to me is better for recruiting than the opposite. A 1-2 start and a 7-5 finish, I don't think you can sell as well because people are going to write you off. You're going to hear hot seat talk the entire time. If you're Mike Norvell and you start 4-1 and you finish 3-4, which is very possible. Granted, if you start 4-1, you're probably a little bit better than I think you are, but not that much better. Like 0.6 wins better than I have you projected at that point. Like at that, I have you 3.4 and 2.6.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That doesn't even add up. It's not 2.6. It's 1.6. However, that's only like 0.6 wins better through 5 games that I think you can beat. Like that's not that insane to happen. It's just a couple bounces. If you start hot, you can just tell kids, hey man, we need more depth, right? We got some injuries down the stretch. If you start poorly, you're just going to be on game day. Hey, this is a must-win game for Mike Norvell. And okay, they win it. And next week is a must-win game for Mike Norvell, even though their own Pete Thamels reported that the buyout's 18-8. And FSU's clearly not going to pay that buyout, barring some pretty wild circumstances. I think we've covered that on this show pretty well. 7-5 though, long term, does it kill you?
Yeah, I mean you're probably a dead man walking long term at 7-5. Well, I say not, probably, not definitely. I mean, look,
it's an obstacle to overcome.
You continue to improve the offensive line. I think in many ways, Alex Atkins is the best insurance policy on your job security that you can have if you're Mike Norvell, because you have a piece there that is legitimately doing the one thing that boosters and everything else have wanted from this program for about 5 years, and that is address the damn offensive line and give us enough bodies that we can easily beat the bottom half of this conference. And that is a very non-complicated recipe if you're Florida State. Most of the schools in the ACC can't sign quality kids along the line of scrimmage and in quantity, in numbers that matter. You can do it and return back to a 500 or plus level ACC program. And with Alex Atkins, you certainly have been as successful in that push as you have been in quite a while.
No doubt about it. Yeah, I think that's really the argument, is that this roster continues to get better year over year. At this point, if Norvell doesn't work out, it's because he was not able to get them good enough, fast enough, or they just at some point you didn't have enough wins to sell on the recruiting trail. Things are not going backwards internally. They're okay. obviously some guys on his staff who should have been fired last year who I think need to be fired. We've already went over this a couple times, but I think they have a chance to have a nice season. And
I desperately want to close the book on this, but if Mike Norvell gets fired, it's because of two things that transpired last year that start with the word Jackson, and that's why it happened.
No doubt. You can't preach attention to detail and lose Jackson State.
Yeah.
So,
and you can't lose the number one kid in the country to Jacksonville State either. So,
also true. Yeah. All right. Well, this has been solid. A little longer than we thought, but I had fun with this, man. This was enjoyable.
I guess Jacksonville State's the team that beat you. Jackson State's the team that beat you on the trail. Or maybe I've got that reversed.
You cannot lose to anything involving Jackson.
Yeah, Jackson. Exactly.
You know what? You really missed an opportunity, by the way. Given your number of 69 nice that you did in the snap count draft, you don't have any 69% win probability.
That was not intentional. I like the psychology of placing things at 9s, 49, 59, 129, etc. But yeah, you're right. I didn't. I wasn't there on any of these numbers.
Nice.
So tell me Hartman's not playing, and I get pretty close to it with the Wake Forest game.
Perfect. All right. I will see you, buddy.
All right, y'all. Enjoyed it as always. We'll be back in season conversations moving forward. Appreciate you guys staying with us throughout the summer. We've made it. Football's here. Hurrah.
Let's go.
Can't wait.